With the rescue work almost over, now the focus is on rehabilitation. Uttarakhand Chief Minister has spoken exclusively to Headlines Today editor T.S. Sudhir. Bahuguna has defended his government's decision of constructing dams and hydel projects across the state. In fact, he's hit back at environmentalists for obstructing the government's development agenda. Here's the full interview.
14 days after tragedy struck Uttarakhand, the state is struggling to get back to some semblance of being normal. It's not an easy time to be the chief minister of this state, with more brickbats than bouquets coming Mr. Vijay Bahuguna's way. Mr. Bahuguna, thank you very much for talking to us. The state seems to be overwhelmed by the magnitude of this tragedy, finding it very difficult to actually cope with the misery, the tragedy of people here.
You see, not only the state, the entire nation, in fact the entire world, is struck and horrified with this magnitude of the disaster which we are facing. And we are trying to do our best, and the central government, state government, all agencies, all instrumentalities, they are there to rescue, they are there to help. And it was a very difficult task under very difficult weather conditions, but we are doing our best.
Would you say your administration has also not been extremely sensitive, because it's very heartbreaking to see people running from pillar to post, carrying photographs of people who are missing, with no one really willing to listen to them? So the administration does not really come out with very flying colors in this entire tragic episode.
I don't know of which city you are talking.
I'm talking of Dehradun.
No, please, if you are talking of Dehradun, the day this calamity struck, there was a control room established in the secretariat itself, which was being manned by a secretary. And on the third day, in the police lines, we opened a full office with the rank of an SSP sitting there. Now the people who are coming, they were mostly trying to be at the airports where the evacuation was taking place. But later when they learned that there's a police help center in Dehradun, in the police lines, I myself went there and there were people. Now mostly the people who are coming with photographs were those people who were in Kedarnath, because it was well known that the maximum death is in the Kedarnath valley. We appreciate the concerns of the families, but we were doing a massive rescue operation. And in the rescue operation, the entire administration, the entire force was so involved that perhaps may not have been possible to address in everybody's concern. But whatever complaints they have made, we have compiled them. It is with the police records. Whatever applications have come, emails have come, they are all compiled. So it is you see, when you are facing such a big trouble, if a train cancellation takes place, look what happens at the railway station.
You mentioned about Kedarnath. Your official death toll is still around 550, but you fear the worst when the excavation work actually takes place in Kedarnath, and also a place like Rambada, which is completely washed away.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed. What is the exact figure? Perhaps we will never know. So many people have expired. But certainly when the premises of the Kedarnath area will be excavated, then we may get some more numbers. Rambada we'll never know, because it is in heaps of debris, bodies which have been washed away. That also we'll never know.
Are you willing to specify some kind of a time frame by when this kind of work can be finished?
We had just a meeting. They require a JCB for Kedarnath. Now Kedarnath, the only accessibility is through a chopper. Now what size of JCB can go there? A DIG rank officer is monitoring with the full team the cremation of the bodies with Hindu rites and for clearing the premises. The temple has been cleared, but the entire area of Kedarnath, which is a quite vast area, is under debris. What type of a JCB can be airlifted? We had just had a meeting. It has been decided that they will lift a JCB which is less than 700 kg in a chopper, and then we'll start excavating. The bodies are stuck in houses. We require equipments to cut it. There is no way you can reach Kedarnath by foot or by the road is already up. There was never a road. It was a path to walk. But we are trying Air Force now the entire cleaning of the temple and the excavation, all that, everything will be done by the police force.
Okay.
State police.
Okay. Mr. Chief Minister, you have also been arguing against the green statutes, that development has to take place in a small state like Uttarakhand, and environment and development have to go together. But do you think a disaster like this has exposed that you cannot have development at the cost of environment?
I'm never at issue on this aspect. What you see, when we know that the acts which have been passed by Parliament like the Forest Conservation Act or the Environment Act, is binding. What I am saying is that once you take a decision after due application of mind, then after some years, how do you reverse it? You see, then we have changed, altered our position. People have altered their position. You pass projects, you clear roads, and then you say, no, this will not happen because of 6 years, 5 years later down the lane, some activist or somebody raises an issue. The emotions should not be the consideration. For emotional reasons, because the people of this state, their livelihood depends upon tourism and on other sources of revenue. Well, let the government of India decide, let the environmentalists decide, let the scientists decide, IIT Roorkee decide. But once you decide it, then we protest that how do you change it just because of some pressures.
So would you say that your government or any government in Uttarakhand is actually pushed to the corner by environmentalists who kind of raise the bogey of the green cover being looted?
That's correct, because where were they when those projects were cleared? Where were they when the issues were being debated in the Ministry of Environment or the Ministry of Power or the Ministry of Road Surface Transport? Where were they? But they just wake up after years, and they come up and start creating issues, as a result of which there's a public resentment. Now, I know roads are necessary. I know I require power. I'm not at issue that you stop the power. They compensate the state. A state, how does a state run? We are a prosperous state. Our GDP was fine, our growth rate was good. In fact, last year the president awarded me for a high rate of growth. Now, literacy is highest in the country. We have got the human resource. If you will not look after avenues from which the local youth and the local people can get employment, then there will be migration. And if there's migration and there's the economic backwardness, then we may go the way the other states have gone, especially when we are sharing borders with China and Nepal. So there will be elements which will take advantage of this resentment.
No, but a disaster like this, a natural disaster like this, doesn't it expose the fact that what the environmentalists have been talking about is perhaps correct, that it's a man-made disaster also?
No, that I seriously dispute. A man cannot create a cloudburst. A man cannot bring a tsunami. And a man cannot bring an earthquake. And the day man can create an earthquake or a tsunami, that means he's become God. Yes, in such an event, if there's a cloudburst or there's a tsunami or there's an earthquake, what should the government do to minimize the loss, to mitigate the pain? That is a role to which I am willing.
I agree, Mr. Bahuguna, but do you think, Mr. Chief Minister, that there could have been steps taken by the government to ensure that the state was better prepared to deal with a crisis like this?
A crisis in a state of 47,000 kilometer area is affected. What is my budget? 25,000 crores. Out of which 17,000 crores is non-plan expenditure. I have 7 to 8,000 crores in my hand. My manpower is limited. My force is limited. Do you think any state worth its name? There were tragedies which struck Orissa. There were tragedies which struck Gujarat. Could the state do it on their own?
Fine, Mr. Chief Minister, you make a very fair point. But for instance, there was a report submitted after the 2012 floods by your own team, which is headed by the Chief Secretary, saying that certain construction should not be taken along the river side. Yet, I mean, the report comes to you. Obviously, you must have read the report, but no action is taken on reports like this.
See, I took over in March 2012. From 2012, I am answerable from 2012 onwards. No power project worth its name has been approved by me or sanctioned by me. No resort or building on the banks of the river within 100 meters, which are our bylaws, has been approved by me. What has been done in the past? Maybe that certain laws were violated and they should have been strictly adhered to. But you see, you cannot blame a government just for a fact that some 7 or 8 unauthorized buildings came up on the banks of a particular river. You travel across Himalayas. All the cities which grew on the banks of the rivers. You see Srinagar, you have seen Haridwar, you see in fact the river water is touching the boundaries of the river. Right. So the structure of the Himalayan states, all these rivers have been habitated, there are buildings, and not from now. You look at Rudraprayag, Karnaprayag, Srinagar, Haridwar, all these are on the banks of the river.
So you are saying that in no way these cities can be decongested?
No, they cannot. You just cannot. No one under the earth can ask all the cities to go 100 meters away from the river or 200 meters away. They are there. But I agree, and I'm not at issue, that no new building should be allowed to come up which is within the zone, the riverbed. Now the difficulty is the river is at 500 meters on the right. And the building comes up because it is away from 100 meters. Then the river changes its course. Because the rivers are changing its course. Now if the river changes the course, then that building becomes right on the mouth of the river, and that building collapses. So there has to be a study of the rivers as to what should be the river bed. And if the rivers are changing its course, then how do we prevent that? So it's not an easy thing to do it. On theory, everything is fine, but how do you execute it in action? So we have to study the river beds, the movement of the river beds. You are not allowing me to mine. The river beds are increasing because the the mine and the boulders you can't remove. There are restrictions under the environmental law. There are restrictions under the forest law. So we have to see everything. Human development is necessary, economic growth is necessary, but preservation of environment, I am never opposed to it.
So you're saying that you're actually working with your hands tied, and I appreciate the point that you're making. But do you think now, with the fact that tourism is going to be majorly hit? My colleague Jugal Purohit traveled to Mussoorie. He said that tourism has been hit so badly they have been taken back by about 3 to 4 years. Occupancy is as low as 10%. How is Uttarakhand going to survive if tourism is going to be so badly affected?
The backbone of my GDP is tourism. And in tourism it is a char dham. Now if I do not construct the roads, if I do not construct the bridges, if I do not repair the infrastructure, if a tourist will go, he requires some lodge, he requires a hotel. If I will not provide the infrastructure, why will a tourist come to my state? And now they are saying, please don't make roads. In fact, I saw one gentleman, some Mr. Tom Walter, speaking on the media that people should walk on foot from Rishikesh. You can't take Uttarakhand to...
He comes from your state.
I know, but alright, but these are the views which are being expressed now. You can't push my state to the 16th or the 14th century. I've been to Switzerland, you have been to, I've went all around the globe, right up to the Alps. The trains are going, the vehicles are going, the cable cars are going, whether it's Mount Titlis or it's Mont Blanc or Zufra. So, are they not hills? What about China? How is China managing? They are right on our border. They have built airports. They have brought trains up to Tibet. So, you see, don't just formulate a policy for the entire Himalayan region and enforce it strictly by a law. Everyone will be bound by it. We don't want to flout the laws. But the question is a practical implementation of the laws, and sentiment should not be the consideration for challenging an act done by a state government.
Right. Is there a move to declare this as a national calamity? Are you in favor of that?
I have talked with the Home Minister, and it does make no difference because the Prime Minister is committed to give us all the relief which we require for building up the infrastructure and for compensating the loss of human life and those who are injured. So whether you call it national tragedy or national what you call loss or a national calamity, it doesn't make any difference. The center is there to support us, and the center will support us, but the center will support us only at this stage. We have to stand on our feet, and to stand on my feet I have to restore this infrastructure. I have to restore the confidence of the people of the country that they can come and they'll be safe in Uttarakhand.
Headlines today has been carrying the story of a 2.5-year-old abandoned girl found in Rishikesh in Dehradun. What can the state administration do about it?
I met her. I went to see the child.
What do you propose to do?
I have said the child will stay in our custody. We are not allowing anybody to adopt her. I have told the administration that you please flash her photographs, send it to all the district magistrates of North India, because she's a Hindi speaking girl. Now if all the district magistrates will get that photograph, they can print it in the local languages or in the local press. We'll wait for 6 months, and if 6 months there is no response, there is nobody coming to adopt her, then certainly we'll find a safe person, and there are families who are coming forward. We'll ensure about the background of the family, and if there's a good family coming, then only we allow them to adopt it legally.
Right. My last question, Mr. Chief Minister, is Mr. Vijay Bahuguna going to stay as Chief Minister of Uttarakhand?
I don't know whether they're going to live tomorrow morning. In politics, there is nothing. It's a game of glorious uncertainties. There's a task cut out for me.
Cricket was a game of glorious uncertainty.
No, life itself. Are you sure all those people died? My pilots, the brave heart pilots who flew, they have expired. Those who live for tomorrow never live. Live for the day. Discharge your duties with full honesty and commitment. The little bit talent I have, the understanding I have, I belong to this area. My father was respected all over this area in the country. So what I'm doing, I'm doing it according to my conscience, to the best of my ability. What will happen tomorrow, I don't know.
Right. We wish you all the best, Mr. Bahuguna. Thank you very much.